Hey y'all, I went viral on TikTok with this hat. Grab your hook, grab your yarn. I'm going to show you how I made it. Let's go! Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Can you believe it? I went viral on TikTok duetting someone about this hat. I mean, it was 15 seconds long, and I am at like 1.4 million views with this hat. This is the easiest, minus this. This cat hat is one of the easiest things. For a beginner, it makes you feel like a rock star because it is just chaining, double crochet, a little bit of whip stitching, and you have this fun hat. Then you can be extra like me, and you can make little eyes, eyelashes, nose, whiskers, and embellish it. We're going to do both today. So, ooh, so much fun. For this, I have a real hard time just using one color for these hats. This is Cook's. I didn't have any white, but I mean, so this is Miss Cook's. But you can make them in solid colors. For this one, I use buttons to embellish. Most of mine, though, are several colors because I love to torture myself by sewing in ends. Look how cute. Look how stinking cute. And it's just a double crochet rectangle. That's all it is. A double. Let me zoom out just a little bit. You can see my setup, but look, this is all it is. It is a double crochet rectangle. You fold it end to end, and you sew it here, and you've got a hat. That's how easy it is. This is 100% a beginner's tutorial, and then a little bit of skill, tiniest bit of skill, just because they're small. But a beginner can do this too. But rock star right here. So for this, I'll be using Big Twist because you guys know how much I love Big Twist. This is the Big Twist Value. I've got 3 colors. I have plum, soft gray, and aqua. And I will be doing stripes with these because that's how I do. You do whatever you want. This calls for a US 8 or 5 millimeter knitting needle, or USH, or a 5 millimeter crochet hook. I'm going to be using an I, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. That's what I'm going to do because I'm a rebel. Okay. For this project, you're going to need your yarn. You're going to need your hook, your scissors, a needle for sewing in your ends, and a tape measure. There are standards that you can follow for making beanies, and I'll post a link in the description box below for what those basic standards are. As far as like the size of the circumference for adults, small through large, or just the universal sizes, kids sizes. I'll post a link for that. But for this, I would recommend measuring your head like it shows here, so you can get your circumference. Because this pattern is so brilliant, there's no counting. There is no multiples of X plus Y. It's just a measurement. So for the hat that I made, for my head, is 20 inches circumference and then 8 inches in height. The standard is for adults adult females is 22, adult males is 23 in circumference with a hat height of 10 inches. So that's way too big for my head. So I measured mine. So even as a beginner, you can measure your head and make your first custom sized hat. Talk about rock star, right? So measure your head. And then what you're going to do is chain the length of the circumference of your head. No counting, just measuring. So to chain, grab your hook. This is your tail, and then this is your working end, whatever's attached to your ball of yarn. Grab your tail, wrap it around your finger, crisscross, and then take it off your finger, and then tuck the top of that in through the bottom of that loop that you put on your finger and pull down on your working end. That's a slip knot. That's how you're going to start your crochet project, is with a slip knot. And now what we're going to do is we're going to chain the length of the circumference of your head. So for the rest of this project, I'm just going to be talking about my measurements, okay? Because you know what your measurements are. So we're going to chain. So to chain, I have this slip knot on my hook. I'm going to grab my yarn and I'm going to pull it through that slip knot. And then that's a chain one. And I'm going to grab my yarn and I'm going to pull it through the loop that's on my hook, and that's a chain two. You want these chains to be loose. You don't want to be pulling your chains like this. Okay? See how tight? It's so hard. One, you lose count or you lose track, and it's so hard to get your hook in there. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to chain very loosely and make sure it's nice and loose on your hook, and grab your yarn and pull through, and there's another chain. And you can pull up a little bit, give it some slack, and pull your yarn through that loop, so you have nice big chains. You can also, if you chain too tightly and you're worried, oh, I'm just going to chain too tightly, this is an eye hook. If you have a bigger hook, say you've got a K or an L hook, this is a K, do your chain with a larger crochet hook, and then the rest of your design with the crochet hook that you chose for the tension that you crochet at. So if I use this K hook to make my chains without even thinking, and even going along a little more tightly, just popping my hook back and forth through that loop and making chains, so you can see how consistent they are size wise, where down here I twisted it, look. Where down here with my J hook, see the difference in size? This side's a little bit bigger because I was crocheting very sloppily here to keep them loose. So that's a tip, okay? So crochet a chain the length of the circumference of your head, so 20 inches. I'm not counting. I'm just chaining. Can you see? No, because it's off camera. Let's do this. So here's my chain. And my chain is, ooh, my chain is 21 inches. I want it. There we go. Pulled some out. There we go. My chain dun, 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 is 20 inches long. Now I'm going to put this guy away. Don't need it no more. I'm going to grab my hook that I'm making my project with, and this is going to be the bulk of your design. I have my chain, and I have my hook, and I'm going to double crochet, and I'm not going to worry about this chain that is connected to the loop. We're not going to even worry about that one. That's not the first chain in this design. This one is our first chain. Okay, so to double crochet, we're going to go once around our hook with our yarn over. We're going to put our hook in that chain. We're going to yarn over, grab our yarn, and pull it through that chain. Now we have 3 loops on our hook, and we're going to grab yarn over, grab that yarn and pull it through 2 loops, and then yarn over and grab that yarn and pull it through 2 loops. That's a double crochet. And let's do it again. Yarn over, go into the next chain, put your hook in that next chain, yarn over, grab the yarn, pull it through that chain. Now you've got 3 loops on your hook. Grab your yarn and pull through 2 loops on your hook. Grab your yarn and pull through 2. There's another double crochet. This is all we're going to do. This is it. So yarn over, go into your next chain, yarn over, grab your yarn, pull your yarn through that chain, 3 loops on your hook, grab your yarn and pull through 2, grab your yarn and pull through 2, double crochet. I'll show you one more time. Yarn over, go into that chain, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, grab your yarn, pull through 2, grab your yarn, pull through 2. You pause, rewind, and watch this as many times as you need. And this is all we're going to do, is double crochet in every single one of these chains till we get to the end. And I'm going to meet you down here where I twisted, see there? I twisted that when I changed hooks and started crocheting again. I twisted it, but that's okay. So I'm going to meet you when I get down here, because I'm going to show you how to turn your work and start your next row. Okay, here we are coming up on the end of our chain, and we're putting 1 double crochet in each chain. This is the hardest part, is starting this first row, because these chains get all twisty. And I'm at my last chain, and I'm going to put a double crochet in there. And they're double crocheted all the way down my chain. Awesome. And now we're going to repeat this row for as many as we need to make the height of this pattern. For my head, 8 inches. Maybe it's 9 for you, but we're going to do it this row as many times as we need to until we measure 8 inches. So to start my next row, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to turn my work, which means I'm just going to point it in the other direction from where it was, because it was pointed over here. And then I'm going to start my double crochet all over again, and I'm going to start it in this very first stitch that's right here next to this last double crochet that I did. This is my double crochet post, and on top of that post is my stitch. See that little gap right there? So we're going to yarn over, put our hook right there in that stitch, grab our yarn, pull it through that stitch. We got 3 loops on our hook. Grab our yarn, pull through 2, grab our yarn, pull through 2. Then yarn over, go into the next stitch, and double crochet, and the same in the next stitch. And we're just going to double crochet all the way across till the end. And when we put in our last double crochet in our last stitch in this row. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and do this all over again. I'm coming up at the end of my second row. This is basically an afterthought as I was working, because at the end of your second row, it's not as apparent where your last stitch is like it is when you are finishing off your initial chain. So I'm going to finish up my second row. This is something I wish somebody would have told me when I first started crocheting, because I would drop rows I would drop stitches all the time, and my rows would go in and out, or go to a triangle. I couldn't figure it out. So here's my coming up on the end, and that is what looks like my last post, but I still have this bump out here because this is where we turned. And so if I look, there's my post, and I should have a stitch to the left of my post, just like here's my post, and then I had a stitch to the left of my post. Well, there's my post, but where's my stitch? Because it's rounded, it's flat, because of the way we did our turning chain. So if you look, I'm going to turn it up. Here's your post right here, and right here is your last stitch. See it there? So I'm going to have to kind of look over to the side of that post so I can find that last stitch, so I can put in my final double crochet of this row. And now I have finished up that row. We're nice and square. So I'm going to chain 1. I turn my work, and I'm going to put a double crochet in that very last stitch that we just did. So here's our stitch, and then there's our post, and there's the stitch right to the right of that, or to the left of that post. I'm going to start there and work my double crochets all the way back across. And so now when you get to the end of this row, you'll be able to find your post and find the stitch that's kind of off, laying down to the side, to the left of that post from where you had made your turn. Okay, that's enough of me, Miss Chatty Cat. This row here will put me at about the 3-inch mark. So I'm almost halfway there, and I'm going to change colors. So I am at the end of my row. I make my last double crochet, and before I chain 1, I'm going to change to my other color. So I'm going to take my hook out, gonna just loop it over my finger. I'm gonna grab the yarn, I'm gonna pull it through that last loop, and then pull down on my tail, and then tighten up my loop. And now that I've pulled down on that tail and tightened it up, this color, this loop here, now acts as my last loop. So now is when I will chain 1 and then turn my work. Let me cut this real quick. Turn my work, and I will then yarn over, go into that last double crochet that I did, there's my stitch, and start my next row of double crochet. And that's how I change my color. And then when I'm done with my work, I'll come back here, tie these two together, and then sew my ends in. Okay, I'll see you when I am done, and I am at 8 inches. Okay, I'm coming up on the end I have 8 inches in height, which is what I want. Here's my last little bit. And when I finish, I'm going to chain 2. 1, 2. Let me scooch out. Okay. So here's my fabric. This is what we've just crocheted. And I was extra. Did a bunch of color because I hate myself. Because now I got to sew in all my ends. And what we're going to do is fold it end to end. It doesn't matter, there's no front or back because we did it the same by turning our work. And by folding it in half end to end, here's the basis of our hat. Okay? And we're going to sew across here and down, and I'm going to change color here and here. Just so you don't see the yarn, other color yarn through here. I'm going to be consistent. And one thing that I can do is go ahead and measure my yarn that I'm going to need for a tail, because I just pulled my hook out. I left this loop. So I'm going to need about twice the length of what I have to sew for my tail. But due to the position of where this is, if this was one color, I would just sew like this. But I'm going to have to sew here, sew it in, sew here, sew it in, here and here. So that was a lot of sews. That was a lot of sews. So I'm just going to measure twice the amount that I need for this section here. And I've got these 2 chains here that I did. I chained 2 when I got to the end of my fabric here. And I'm just going to pull that through there. And now I've got these 2 chains. I'm going to pull down on my chains and pull up on my yarn. And that's going to be a really nice, tight finishing knot right there. Now, jingle jangle, digging around in my little pouch. Now got my needle. I just rolled it off of there. I can't. Okay, threaded my needle, and so now I'm just going to whip stitch along this top part of the hat, and I'm going to use, see my stitches here, hang on. So see my stitches, the little V here, little V here. Well, Tish, see there? I'm just gonna match those up and push my needle in, and that way I'll keep my stitches straight, because this is the top of the top stitch of my double crochet, the top stitch of my double crochet right there. So that being said, I'm going to fold it. I'm going to match them up, starting here and going to this one. And then I'm going to take my needle and thread to the next set, just like that. And I'm going to whip stitch all the way across matching up my stitches. And I will, when I'm done with this, then I'll show you. This side's a little bit different because we're working with our posts on this side. So I'm gonna go, you whip stitch along here, I'll whip stitch along here, and then I'll come back and I'll meet you and we'll go down this side. So I've whip stitched all the way across the top to the end, tied it off, sewed in my end, and now I have these joins where I've changed my color, and I just need to tie them together. And I will sew these ends in, but until I do, I've got me a little bit more yarn. And now we're on the post side, or the end, and I'm going to just start at the fold at the top. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail here, so I can sew this end in. And I'm going to whip stitch. Going down the sides a little bit different because I have this post area where you can go in between your posts, and then I have where you made your next row. So here's your row with your posts, and then here it's a little denser here because that's where you made your stitches in the top of the post, in the top of the stitch to make your next row. And then you'll go back in and there's a post, and then there's a bigger lump because that's where you made your stitches, and then there's a post. So it's not as nice and even going across where you're just at the top of all your stitches. So basically here on the side, you're just going to sew, whip stitch down the side, and catch what you can. Make sure that you stay even, line them up the best you can, and just whip stitch and just catch your yarn and just do and you're just catching your yarn as opposed to little twisty, as opposed to your stitches. And you're going to do that all the way down. And then when I get down to here, I'll leave my tail. I'm going to change over into the gray. I'm going to do the gray, and then when I'm all done, I'm going to sew all these ends in. So when I get down to the bottom, and I'll show you how I sew these ends in. So you just continue to whip stitch down the side. Okay, I have sewn one side and across the top, and now it's time to sew in my, I hate this part, and I do it to myself every time because I change color and now I got all this schmatta here. So I'm going to leave my needle on here, and I'm going to tie these two together. Okay, I've got these tied off, and now I'm just gonna sew in my ends. Just weave them in, and I'm going to take it up this seam here, in and out. And back down. And then take my scissors and move on to the next. all my sewing is done. Oh my gosh, are you ready? And now all you gotta do is turn it inside out. And, my dear friends, we made a cat hat. What? What? What did we do? Do you see how cute this is? Oh my god. So easy. Did you see how easy that was? It's just a rectangle of double crochet folded in half and sewed together. Oh, but wait. There's more. Okay, so if you want to bump it up a notch, it's adorbs, just the way it is. But you say you want to be a little extra, kind of like how I am. We could make little crochet eyes, and then embroidery, eyelashes, nose, and whiskers. You can use buttons and embroidery, a nose and whiskers. It just makes them pop. It just gives them that little extra oomph. I found this pattern for these eyes on Ravelry by Ieva Lampickiene. I believe that's how it's spelled or pronounced, and I apologize. This person says if you use her creation for anything, to please tag her. Hashtag Ami Spells, AMISPELLS, so she can see what everybody's working on. So I will post a link in the description box below to her pattern on Ravelry, so you can see how she does it. I already do it just a little bit different, and that's okay because we're going to give Miss Levy the credit for this, and it's real easy. You're going to need like something thin. I have a DK, so I don't know what brand this is. I got a bag at thrifting that had a bunch of yarn in it. I believe it's a cotton. So I'm going to use the green for the eyes, and I'm going to use the black for the whiskers and the pupil and the eyelashes, and then I've got some medium for Hirschner's worsted in pink. Make a little pink nose. And then you're going to need, obviously, a needle for sewing, your skiz, and for this crocheting, I'm using a D hook, or a 3.25 millimeter. So we'll put this off to the side. With her instructions as well, she also uses a white, and I have the Yarn Art Tahiti, and this is a 2, medium 2, and you can do like a little sparkle in the eye or a waterline if you choose. I might skip that. It's a lot of extra sewing. That's why I was like, I'm not going to do it exactly like hers. I'm just going to give you an example. So I'm going to take this really bright green, and I'm going to make a slip knot. I'll take the tail, wrap it around my finger, take the top of the tail, push it into the loop, pull down, slip knot. Put my hook in there, and I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Once I have chain 3, I'm going to make a loop. So I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to put it back into the first chain that I made, grab my yarn, pull it through that chain, and then pull it through the loop that's on my hook, and that's a slip stitch. So now I've slip stitched this chain together to make a loop, and now I'm going to work more stitches into this loop. Eee, there it is. There it is. It's so in the middle, this part can be so frustrating, but there she is in this center of this ring. I'm going to work 8 single crochets. So I'm going to put my hook in the middle of the ring that I just made. That's why this part I was just like, maybe not beginners, because this can be so frustrating. And then I'm going to do 8 single crochets. So I'm going to grab my yarn, pull it back through the center. Now I got 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull it through both. That's a single crochet. And I'm going to put my hook back in the center, grab my yarn, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, grab my yarn, pull through 2. That's 2 single crochets. Put my yarn or my hook back in the middle, grab my yarn, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, grab my yarn, pull through both. That's 3 single crochets. 4. 5. 6. Make some room, push that around. 7. 8. Packed a lot in there. So now what we need to do is slip stitch this together. We're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet that we made. And I know it's really small, and if you're like, I don't know which one it is, start with the chain that's on your hook right here and count back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's my chain right here. So I want to slip stitch into that chain. So I'll put my hook into that single crochet stitch. See there, it went under both of those. Grab my yarn, pull it through the stitch, and then through the loop that's on my hook, and that is a slip stitch. So now I've slip stitched that together. So now what we're going to do is work on the eye. Here's what we just did. Now we're going to do a lot of increasing to make an oval around here. So we're going to start in the very first stitch that we did. We're going to do a double crochet. So yarn over and go right back into that stitch right there that we started, or that we just slip stitched together, that first stitch, put your hook right in there. Grab your yarn, pull it up. You got 3 loops on your hook. Grab your yarn and pull through 2. And grab your yarn and pull through 2. And there's a double crochet. In that same stitch that we just did, we're going to do a half double crochet. So you're going to yarn over, go back into that same stitch, grab your yarn, pull it up, 3 loops on your hook, grab your yarn and pull through all 3. That's a half double. Now moving to your next stitch right here, go put 2 single crochets in there. So put your hook in the stitch, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, grab your yarn, pull through both. Put your hook back in that same stitch, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, grab your yarn, pull through both. That's 2 single crochets in that stitch. Do the same thing in the stitch right next to it. Go ahead and put your hook into that single crochet and make 2 single crochets in that stitch. Now in your next stitch, we're going to work the oval out on this side. So we're going to start with a half double crochet, yarn over, go into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, grab your yarn, pull through all 3. In that same stitch, I'm going to do a double crochet, yarn over, go back into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. In the next stitch, we're just going to reverse what we did. So we're going to do a double crochet first, yarn over, and do a double crochet. In that same stitch, do a half double crochet, yarn over, go into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, grab your yarn, pull through all 3, eek, half double crochet. Now in the next stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets, in the next stitch, 2 single crochets, and in your last stitch we have to finish what we started with the other half of the eye. So we have to do 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet. And we made an eye. Now we need to slip stitch it together. So you're going to slip stitch it into the first stitch that you did. That's right here. Do a slip stitch. And you made an eye. And you want to chain 2 to finish it out. Cut off your tail, pull it through, pull down on those 2, pull up on the other, make a good knot, and look at there. Look! 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 You made an eye! So you're going to need to do another one of those. So pause, rewind, make another one, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, now we have 2 eyes, so we need to outline them. And so I have black, and start anywhere. It doesn't matter where you want to start, just in one of your stitches, because you have 16 now, because we had 8 and we put 2 stitches in each going around. So now we have 16 stitches. I'm just going to put my hook in any of the stitches. I'm going to grab my black and I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to drop my tail. And I'm going to chain 1. And then in each one of these stitches, these 16 stitches all the way around, I'm going to put 1 single crochet, including the one that I just did a chain 1 in. So I'm going to put my hook back in that stitch, grab my yarn, pull up a loop, grab a yarn, pull through 2, single crochet, and I'm going to go into my next stitch and do a single crochet all the way around. 1 single crochet in each stitch around the eye. Okay, I've come around to my last stitch and I need to slip stitch this together. Sorry, black is so hard to see. I'm going to go into my last stitch, do a slip stitch, and now I have slip stitched that together, and I have done an eyelid, and I'm going to chain 2 because that's how I'm going to do my final knot, and I'm going to leave a pretty good tail on here because I got to sew that eye on. I'm going to pull down on the chain and up on the tail, and that's going to make a knot. And there I have a little eye with a border. I'm going to do the same to this one. Now we got to sew our ends in for the iris color, for the green, and just a couple quick whips. Well, I might not give myself enough on that one. Okay, now I might have cut that one too short. I don't know. We'll make it work. Now we need to see where we want to put our eyes. Are you going to roll up your brim? You're going to roll up your brim? If you are, go ahead and roll it up. Move your eyes up a little bit because you want your eyes, your nose, and your whiskers. If you're not going to roll your brim up, then move your eyes down, okay? Do you want them kind of up like angry cat? Do you want them kind of down like sad cat? And then you want to be center as best you can. So I would measure from your iris, your pupil. Hey, Cooks is here. From here to your edge. So here I've got 4.5. So I want 4.5 on this side as well for my so that's how close the eyes would have to be centered in this, to be equally centered. And I think I want them a little bit further apart. So about like this. And a little high up. So I'm going to thread my needle. She's going to walk across this, you guys. She's coming. She's on a mission. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this out here because I'm going to need this. I'm just going to catch a little bit of yarn from the hat and the stitch of the crochet that we just did. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Just a little bit of the yarn and the stitch. And I'm just sewing these eyes on. As you're coming around to your last part of sewing the eye, you want to run your needle back underneath the eye to the middle, because we're going to do the pupil, the cat slit, how they have a cat slit, or a, not a cat slit, but the way their pupils are. And then go right back down the middle through the back. See there? And then leave your tail, because we're going to sew this in. Now pick up this one here. This is why I said I didn't leave myself enough, because we're going to need to sew this in. For this one, we'll make eyelashes. So just go out at an angle, however long you want the lashes to be. And don't pull it tight, because you don't want it to bunch up your crochet stitches. And just sew a couple lashes there. Push your needle through the back. And there you have some little eyelashes. And you're going to do the same with this eye on this side. And I'll be back when I have that one sewed on. Okay, we have the eyes sewed on there. Now you need to take another length of your black, thread your needle, decide where you want the nose to be, about here. So I'm going to bring my yarn up. I'm leaving a tail in the back to sew in, and I'm going to make my whiskers. I'm just going to go out past, just going to sew them in, making sure that I bring my needle back real close to where I started, and we don't pull it tight, because the hat's going to stretch when you put the hat on, so you can't have it tight. Just about like that. And then I'm going to put another whisker about halfway, bringing my needle back to right about where I started. Not too tight. And then I'm going to go out a little further, make my third whisker, come back to this point, right about where I started. And there's my whiskers. So I need to then make whiskers on the other side. I'm going to go underneath, leave room for the nose. Start about there. Go up at an angle for my first. Back underneath. Bring my needle out about where I started. Not too tight. and then come back out about halfway. Take my needle underneath, back to where I started. Hey, I didn't mean to do that. Not too tight. We talked about this, Tish, not too tight. And then I want to come back out for my third one and take my needle, and there I've got 3 more whiskers. And then I'm just going to put my needle down through the back and then leave extra for sewing in. And now the last embellishment is going to be the nose. This is where the pink comes in. I'm just going to cut a length. It doesn't have to be too terribly long. I'm going to thread my needle one more time. I'm going to come in between the whiskers. I'm not going to pull it all the way up. I'm going to leave enough to sew in the back. And I'm going to go across. And I'm just going to kind of gradually go in. So I'll be going down and making like a triangle. So push my needle in just a little bit further in from this one. And then push my needle through to where it comes out next to that. I'm just going to do 3 or 4. Not too tight. You don't want to bunch up your work. You did all that work with your crocheting. And gradually make each one just a little bit shorter than the next. Not too tight. You don't want to bunch up your work. I'm going to put my needle back down so I can sew in my ends. Oh. Do you see this? Oh, do you see this? Do you see how cute this is? So look what we did today. This was a long one, you guys. I'm sorry about that. Oh, you know what I think is funny too? Because I put my glasses up here all the time. Now my cat has glasses on. We made a cat hat with eyeballs. Thanks for hanging out today. I know this was a long one, but I really wanted to share this with you guys today. If you make a cat hat, tag me. Tag me in social media. Fly over to my social media and post a picture. I want to see. I want to see. And if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. I'll make sure that I put it in a playlist so it's easier for you to find. My channel is loaded with content. You guys know the spiel. Tie-dye, crochet, jewelry making, spirituality, my travels, my camper. Who knows? It's Tish TV. It just, whatever goes on the channel. And remember, be peaceful. Be kind. It's important. Try something new today. Who knows? You might like it. It might be something really, really simple that you had no idea was so fabulous.